Hey, everybody, welcome to the Combo Wombo podcast. I'm Mr. Gimpy, and I'm here with Chipped Monk. What's going on, bro?
It's happening, bro. Just been chilling, taking it easy. It's been a pretty good week. How
Yeah,
about you?
man.
What you been on?
Shit, man. I've actually had probably one of the most chill weeks in a long time, man. Everything seemed to work out for me, man. I got
Yeah.
to go to game night on Thursday, play a little poker with the boys,
Oh,
some good shit.
nice. The
Uh,
weather's been nice, which I feel is kind of cliche. It's like, but like if you're not from the Midwest, I feel like you don't understand.
that's
We're like,
true.
where it's
That's
like, oh,
true.
people very surface level. Everybody always just wants to talk about the weather, but it's like it's extremely important. It's like here, it's like the difference between like life and death with like our weather conditions. So it's like, oh, it's like 40 degrees. Like, it's nice. It's a sweatshirt weather. Whereas
For
like other
sure.
people are dying like when that type of weather hits. See, like,
Right,
yeah,
right. Yeah, man, that's real true because I you can see the grass now. There's no more snow. Like there's still snow, but it's not oppressive. You know,
yeah.
it's you can see the light around the end of the corner. I actually did go outside in a t-shirt the other day. I had to me and my son went out because he wanted to play in the snow for like the last second of snow that's left.
Yeah, it's like it's done,
So
son. Let
we
it
went
go.
out, and I'm like, I should put on a coat, and he already is bolting out of the door. So I was
Just
like, I guess we're
running.
outside now. But
Yeah,
yeah,
keep
man,
moving, dude.
yeah, it was dope. I think that outside of that, like even I streamed on Wednesday. I streamed Mario 3D World, and that game's up to four
Oh
player
yeah.
co-op. And I actually had a 4-man squad, including myself, for like the first time. I was streaming
Oh.
that game for like 2-3 weeks now, I want to say. And yeah, every time it's just like two people, it's myself and my buddy Sir Trike. And yeah, I actually got a full 4-man squad. A couple of people who haven't been on my stream in a long time, Sir Solace and Poison. So that was some good shit.
Oh.
Uh, then I'm doing Ninja Gaiden 2 on my retro Saturday. Just always talking about the Ninja Gaiden. Everyone take a shot every time you hear that.
Don't do that. You'll die of alcohol poisoning. Like, did you see
True.
the Ninja Gaiden remastered collection? You're talking a little bit about that, but I finally actually watched the trailer for it.
Yeah,
Is it like
yeah.
Sigma? Is the
Yep.
ones that are they're coming out with?
Yeah,
Man,
it's Sigma 1 and 2, which is a little disappointing. The
it's like a
the
trilogy. There's like a third game too.
Yeah, yeah, for sure, for sure. Let me close out Steam real quick. So I'm just getting messages. I'll just leave it. I'll
It's
just leave it
very
open.
unprofessional of you.
It's
You're getting
very, it
messages from
really
your
is.
fans, all this. You're like, let me take all the streaming people. They're like, why aren't you streaming? What's
Why
going
aren't you?
on?
Yeah, right, right. All six of them.
They're
They're the six
fanatics,
people
though,
that
dude.
I adore, though. They take
Yeah.
their time to watch me. No, yeah, it's Sigma. Sigma had some changes. I just thought it would be perfect to stream too. I was gonna do it anyway, but just to highlight what's different from normal two to
Did it already
Sigma.
launch the remastered collection? I thought that was coming out like
Not
in.
yet. June, I believe. It was either June
All
or
right.
tail end. But
Is there going to be a
Sigma,
24-hour like super stream where you try and beat all three?
I could probably do it. Yeah, I could probably do it. I think that so Sigma 2 upped enemies' health. They made limb dismemberment and decapitation harder, and they lowered the amount of enemies on screen because 2 just said F it and threw like 40 guys at you at all times.
Yeah.
So this one you have instead of like 40, you have 6 or 7. And they have higher health, so it takes longer to kill them, and it's way harder to cut their limbs off or decapitate them. And the original release of Sigma 2 removed blood.
Can you
Uh,
carry over like the progress from like one game to the next, like your powers and stuff?
no, no, you
Uh,
you have like
is
similar
there like a
stuff.
story reason, like a fucking wizard comes out and he's like, "Give me all fucking
Not at
powers"?
all. Not at all. Not at all.
I feel like they
uh,
used to do that at the beginning of like all the old games, like Mega Man and shit, where like you'd be like, "All right, Mega Man, you saved the day." And at the beginning of the next game, Doctor Wily like fucking pops out, he's like, "Not today, bitch," and steals your shit. And you're like, no, I have to re-get all my
Right.
powers now. But they're going to be
I,
slightly different.
Metroid does a really good job of that. Whenever you start a new Metroid, it's like, hey, remember in the last game when you had the various suit and you were just fully powered and you're doing the first intro stage, you're like, this game's pretty dope. I got all of my abilities, and Ridley comes out and wrecks your shit. You lose everything every time, and
Right at the start.
yeah, yeah. I feel like no, there's no story beat for it. It just is what it is. Like he's all like story wise, he's like the whole tagline for him is like modern super ninja, and he basically is. He
Wasn't
has
he an assassin in like the old games?
no, he was still he so. There was a Disney movie that just came out, Raya, and the Last Dragon. It's basically that he's like the last of the dragon lineage, and he his goal is to
My
protect
Ninja Gaiden
the.
thing, like I remember, like there's like a reporter. I
Yep,
remember there's like
she's
some bullshit happening.
CIA agent, Irene,
Okay,
from the original trilogy. He ends up marrying her, and in the new games, she is introduced. Her name's Sonia in this, but that's her code name. And at the end of the game, it goes, "My name's actually Irene," and then it just connects the old games to the modern games. You're like, bum, bum, bum.
is they do that like that startup theme from the first game?
Oh
Like,
man, I wish that actually used to be my text tone forever. Actually, and since I got my first
does
cell phone,
anybody use phone like noises at all anymore? It's like just put that
it's
shit
always
on
on
vibrate
silent.
mode.
Yeah,
There's
it's
so
on
many
vibrate.
notifications now, dude. Like this is ridiculous. I
True.
heard people are getting like phantom leg syndrome where like
Yeah,
they
where you
feel
feel the
vibration.
vibration.
It's
Yeah,
not
yeah.
happening. They're like,
That's a
ah,
that's a real thing, dude. Like no shit.
yeah.
When I wake up in the morning, I put my wallet. Like I never put my phone in my pocket until I leave the house. I put my wallet in my pocket, and then randomly I'll just feel it vibrating. I'm like, I'm either having a stroke or I need to get off this damn phone.
You're
uh,
legally dead. No.
yeah, yeah. So, but yeah, so he's protects the dragon blade. It's like the main thing. There's a so that's it's kind of the same deal. There's like a dragon amulet that puts in that powers up the sword. Uh,
But like game to game now in the new ones, there's like no reason for him to lose any of his badass ninja powers.
he just basically, I mean, you get two
Does
of
he
the
still
abilities
evolve
that you
into like
get.
a dragon? I know they did that in one of them where you like
No,
became a huge ass dragon that like swept through all your enemies. Like,
he turns into a falcon, but that's like all cutscenes.
it's
Um,
fucking bullshit, dude.
yeah, yeah. It's I mean the stories aren't
He's the last
something.
of the dragon lineage. Just give him a dragon.
Yeah, it's mostly
It
for
doesn't need to
power.
be big, dude. He could be like that Mulan dragon. Like
That'd be dope. That'd be dope.
be a
But
little lizard.
yeah, no, I'm playing through that just to show people like what it's supposed to be. I don't think the Sigma series is bad. I just think it comes off a little bit disappointing. At least
Are
for three,
just wizards.
right? For sure, for
You're
sure.
like, what? I like that lost my thought. I'm like, can become other animals. You can use like supernatural powers. You can, like they have like magic that they can use.
Yeah,
They're like wizards with swords.
for sure they are. They are. It's I forget where I was going with these to trip me up with the wizards, but yeah, it's the Ninja Gaiden 3 in that collection is Razor's Edge, which I'm actually excited about because I've never played Razor's Edge. I just bought it before the collection was announced too, just because my goal was to play all of the Ninja Gaiden series on stream outside of the DS one because it's a pain in the ass to stream. But
Yeah.
yeah, I'm excited for that one since it's one I haven't played. I bought the original Ninja Gaiden 3 on launch and was super disappointed by it. That game was trash. And
Oh
coming
man.
from a fan of the series, it like broke my heart because it came out like on my birthday, like when it
Yeah.
was originally released. So it's like it's the only
Like
thing I wanted.
layered on disappointment. Yeah.
Yeah, it really did. But yeah, looking forward to that. And I think that from what I've heard, Razor's Edge fixes all of the BS from Ninja Gaiden 3, which I'm sure we'll go over on another pod at some point because it's
It's like it's a
obviously one of
gift
my
just for
favorite
me.
things. Yeah, for
Then you
sure.
open it up and it's just disappointment. You're like, it's like it was a gift just for me.
For sure, for sure. I do gotta mention though, for game night, which you were a part of, that poker
Thursday
game,
night
man.
throwdown with the
Thursday night
boys.
throwdown. Yeah,
Ended up winning that whole thing. I had it open for a little bit, and I was like doing other things.
yeah, man. So in the poker game, there's like what, 7 of us, 8 of us, something like that.
Yeah, it was
Uh,
eight.
there's 8 of us. Yeah. So I was like in fourth. You were ahead of me for a bit too.
Yeah, I had a decent hand. It was like three people got all knocked out at once because we all
Yeah.
kind of went. It was like one of those things where like after the flop, where it's like, oh, a lot of different things could be made out of this, and everyone was like, I think I have it. And
Yeah.
then
Yeah.
like you came out on top, you knocked out three people at once.
Yeah. So that hand, I went in. I had the straight. It was a
Yeah,
low straight. So and I think everyone
never seen
saw that there's probably a straight draw on it, but I've like everyone's been getting such crap cards like the whole night that everyone's like,
yeah,
yeah, you probably have like a high card or something. So with that pot was huge, and that actually put me in the lead. And it was like down to Spork and Hard on the Table and myself, and I ended up knocking out Spork, and that took a while because he was being very conservative and
yeah.
then Hard on the Table and I went heads up, basically going back and forth. I had a large chip lead, so I could chip bully him, but he wasn't falling for anything. So I was like, the only way I can beat this man is if I go in. He's gonna have a hand no matter what if he goes in
Yeah,
and starts betting. So I'm like,
I
I
have
just
the
have
better
to
hand.
have the better hand. So um, it took probably 10, 15 minutes of just us like checking, folding, and two hands. He won the first one because I'm like, uh, I had two pair going in, and he had like the higher two pair, or he had either had a three of a kind or something. So I'm like, oh shit, okay. So we go in again. I'm like, you know what? Let's just bait him out. So I'm throwing out chips, and then he immediately goes all in. And I'm looking at the table, and I'm like, okay, I don't think he has the a queen, right? There's like a queen on
Yeah,
the table, because he went out too soon before the queen was shown. So I'm like, okay, I don't have it. So I started off with a pair of twos. There was
right.
a two on the
Deuce,
board, two in
deuce.
my hands, and I was like, I had two king. So I'm like, okay, if he has a queen, I'm screwed. If a king comes out, but I have such a chip lead that it's worth it to go in. So I'm like,
Yeah,
okay, I'll match you. So we go out, turn river, all that, and flip the cards. This man went in on some bullshit. He had nothing. He had high card. I
he's
had
trying to bluff you
I
out.
won it with a pair of twos, dude. That's what won it. Like that was like one of the best like poker games I've had in years, man. I had like 4 or 5 flushes that night. I had a straight. I had a low and a high straight, but I folded
But
on the
what
high
won it
straight because
all
I
for
didn't have
you
the
was a
yeah,
pair of
the
twos.
pair of twos. Yeah, yeah. So that was ridiculous. After poker, we
Uh,
ended up playing some Tetris after you went to bed, and
yeah, man. I'm an old man. I got work in the morning.
yeah, yeah.
I've
So
mostly been reading like that comic book, Solo Leveling, the Korean uh,
oh yeah, yeah.
webtoon
Yep,
situation.
yep.
Uh, what I do is like I take time off and then I kind of go back and like I'll catch up after like a year or so of just like binge reading like an entire story arc. So I left off pre like Ant Island situation,
Okay.
and then when I came back, that I read through that entire arc of the Ant Island, where he becomes like he was already super OP, but now he got even more OP. But then the next arc, they kind of revealed more of like the mystery of what was like been happening to like the world and like him and all that. It's like a classic tale of like good and evil forces battling for eternity or whatever. And
Yeah.
it was kind of nice to see them addressed. Like I was like, I don't know where the fuck this story can go from here. Like when it's kind of the problem whenever you make like your main character super overpowered. Like I also feel like web comics have always had the problem of not wanting to tell like a slower human based story of like daily like slice of life stuff.
Yeah, if you
It's so
don't if you don't have like action happening every other frame, I feel in a
yeah,
webcomic that they lose interest for like viewership, right? Or
yeah. It's
readers.
almost like the shonen meat grinder where they're like, oh, if you're not getting the votes, we're taking you off the bottom of the book. So only the big three are going to keep living. And so yeah, with Webtoon, it's like that, but like weekly. So instead of like a like I don't know. I know shonen they got weekly and monthly, so they also
Yeah.
have to deal with it. But like it's more open and like crazy. Like so, I went from reading that, I caught up to current, and then I started reading Skeleton Soldier. So I was reading that, and it's about
I
like
have no idea what that is.
a skeleton summon, like a level one skeleton summon that like when it dies, it keeps restarting back to level one.
Oh,
But it has all of its memories of like its previous summon situation.
okay,
Uh,
okay.
and then like through trial and error, he kind of runs into like a necromancer, gives him like the power to absorb spirits like when they die. And then like he finds out those carry over when he gets like restarts. So he starts to become like super overpowered, like eventually. So it's been okay. Yeah,
Interesting.
I can recommend any of these books, but if you got nothing else going on, like, I think like my go to would be like that I really enjoys like I was talking with somebody about like pieces of like art or literature that they keep going back to and like revisiting.
Yeah.
And for me, it was like Tales of I think it's Demons and Gods or Gods and Demons, like one of those.
Okay.
That's like
Okay.
I think that's Chinese, like it's a Chinese comic book, but like that they always go into depth of like I don't, it's kind of like the same. I feel like they popularized uh the reborn theme, so like he gets like reborn
Mm.
like back in
Yeah.
time with all
Yeah.
of his previous life memories, and like he gets to like cosmically correct it. So like I think that was like the first one to pop off, but like that's a book I've read 3 times, and then I read like the light novel, and then I watched like the Chinese cartoon that they made of it too, like in
Wow. So you're
Chinese.
in.
Yeah,
You're in.
yeah. Like I didn't like it became too big, and then like they hit you with like some bullshit like at the very end of where there's like a natural conclusion to the story where it's like the big bad evil guy shows up, the city lord finally approves of like him trying to like rekindle his romance with like his wife from his previous life, and the city lord's like, yeah, I acknowledge your power and like it's cool and everything, and like the grandpa of like his like previous life's wife's like, yeah, it's cool if you want to marry my daughter and stuff. So he's getting everybody's approval, and then the big bad evil guy shows up, kills the city lord. He's in the battle with this guy, and he's just about to fucking lay that final blow. And to me, that's where the story ends. He lays that final blow, becomes the
Yeah.
city lord, marries
Yeah.
his life. But that's not what happens. Instead, the big bad evil guy becomes a beam of energy and just fucking takes off. And he's like, "I'll get you later, bitch." And I'm like, "What the fuck just happened? This is bullshit." And like I realized it's like the series had become too popular. Like we have to keep this going
Got it.
somehow.
So it's
Uh,
like it's like a shonen thing at this point, where there's
yeah.
just
And
like
now
power
he opened
creep
up a
and
new realm, and he's like in the new realm where there's even a bigger, badder evil guy he has to fight.
yeah,
So
always,
I'm like,
always.
yeah, and I'm like, man, this is some. I was like,
Yeah,
so in my head, I'm just like the story canon, like I just finished it
it's that
there.
right,
Yeah,
right. Yeah, I haven't read. I typically don't read like manga or anything
Mahua
like
or
that.
whatever.
It just because like power creep and like the weekly, just how it's set up isn't just for me. I'd rather watch it when it comes out as like a show or whatever
I love the
and call
power
me a
creep.
pleb. But
I
I
like
do
people getting destroyed.
I do read American comics every now and then, and Marvel is gearing up for a big summer event where Felicia Hardy, Black Cat, steals the Infinity Gauntlet. So
All right.
there's some shenanigans going on there. So they're building it up. It's been really interesting. I didn't think I would be one reading just the Black Cat solo series, but it's been really well written, and it's actually keeping my interest, and I'm excited for the summer event. I haven't been into Marvel summer events since
Did they
the
bring
Scroll Secret Wars.
they bring Miles Morales into the main
Yeah,
MCU?
yeah. So the ultimate universe got destroyed, and
Yeah,
Miles was basically the only person who survived. Honestly, like a
yeah.
lot of the
He's the only one worth saving, honestly.
it
If you
really
want to,
really was. Yeah, I think it was like Miles and like Spider Gwen was like Silk. I think was her name. I can't. It's too early in the morning for me to think of it now, but yeah.
all
Um, a ghost spider. That's what she was. That's her thing, but everyone calls her Spider Gwen.
right,
but
yeah.
but yeah, man. I gotta say that the thing that we're gonna talk about today, it's a good topic, and here's why. Here's why.
Yeah,
Uh, new consoles came out, right? But before that, the console that's been getting the
Like,
most play from me has been the Nintendo Switch. I
yeah,
didn't think it would be my most played console, especially after the PS4 just did gangbusters and had hit after hit after hit, like genre defining hits.
yeah.
But the Switch, man, it's like the little engine that could.
Did
Uh,
you watch like the Nintendo Direct at all?
I did. Hence the Ninja Gaiden
Uh,
Master Collection and Breath of the Wild 2 and all that.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
the
That's
Splatoon 3 popping
Splatoon
off.
3. I actually
Uh,
bought Splatoon 2 looking at the Splatoon 3 trailer. I'm like, that looks fun, and I've never played Splatoon, so I bought
all right,
that, gave it a try.
so Splatoon 3, like they didn't show a lot, and like what they did show is like not actual gameplay, but like it like
Yeah.
kind of ends with them jumping off into a city.
Yeah.
Do you think it's gonna be like a because they're doing this with like Breath of the Wild, where they had so much success with like that open world
Mm,
thing. It's almost like the Ubisoft effect. I don't know if you remember Ubisoft.
yeah.
It's like Assassin's Creed and stuff where everything became like an open world, point based objective mission thing. And I feel like that's kind of what they did with like Breath of the Wild, but without like as many markers. Where it's like we're not going to tell you what to do, just enjoy the sandbox. This is here to explore and experience. And I played a lot of Breath of the Wild. I beat up to like the second dungeon of like the main monster beast situations,
Okay.
not the mini dungeons or whatever.
Sure.
But I was borrowing the Switch, so I had to give the Switch back to my little bro at that point.
Yeah.
Uh, and from what I played of that, I was like, "This is fun," but I don't have enough time to like really dig into it, like that sandbox, like a trial and error. And then like the other problem is like with the internet, it's like you find out all the super cool stuff right away from like here's the top 10 hot tricks you don't know about. Like uh so with Splatoon 3, do you think it's gonna be like another open world like city experience? Like
No,
just based on that brief 10 seconds at the end of the trailer.
I assume that they're going to actually have a single player campaign on launch. Splatoon 2 had single player DLC that came out, and it's more multiplayer focused, though. It's basically like a team battler. So I think I don't see that they'll change it up too much. I think that the one thing that Splatoon fans have been begging for is a real single player campaign. And I think that 3 will give it to them. It might have some sort of co op element. Nintendo really likes getting people in the same room playing together. So I
I'm
think
going
that
all
that'll
in, Paint
happen.
City, Splatoon 3, online, objectives on the map, like it's open world. You have to go to like the different parts with your friends and gather more paint, dude. There's no more none of the previous elements of any of the other games. It's just a whole new thing.
No, that's like one of the Nintendo's three Pro series that they're actually maintaining. It's that they're really dropping the ball on Smash, but Splatoon
I
2,
mean, Smash
Smash,
dropped the
Mario
ball
Kart.
on itself, dude. Like, there's been so much controversy, like with the Smash community. Like, and I know we always dunk on them, but like, damn, like they do it to themselves, like more than anything. Like, so it's understandable, like that. Like Nintendo's like, that's not a good look. That's not what we want. And they, it seemed like they wanted to promote Splatoon and a little bit of Arms. Like at one point, they're like, we gotta
Yeah.
support Arms, because I think that was like a first party game, right? Where they
Yep.
came out and they're like, I think the biggest problem they had with Arms was like, there's no good way to like host tournaments for the game.
That's Nintendo in a nutshell, though. They're so behind on the online space that the pandemic really exposed them. Because I feel gamers already knew that if you're
Yeah,
getting a
I've been
Nintendo
saying it
console and
for like
playing
the
it online,
last like since the Switch dropped. I was like, so yeah, still are using friend codes, huh? Like this is ridiculous.
yeah,
I was like, you would think like you know, it being Japan, like Sony has it figured out, you know.
yeah.
Uh,
Nintendo
it,
has been, you know, going by the beat of its own drum for years. So
yeah,
it's you just have to get it. They have to get it through their head. But recently, they did announce that sorry about that, that they were updating their online infrastructure finally after 20 years.
nice.
So the online infrastructure they have right now still had checks for Windows 98 if the
All
device was
right.
running Windows 98. So you can tell how old it was. And now, for the first time, they acknowledge that, oh, yeah, our online is crap. we realized this, especially with the pandemic, so we can't host like tournaments locally because no one's gonna show up and no one wants to, get
Find
potentially get
your
sick.
buddies. Yeah.
So yeah, I think that in the next year and a half, Nintendo's online will improve. They're still in the growing stages, but
I mean, they had like a bunch of data leaks too recently, right? For like hackers gotten like a bunch of like open source, like
yeah,
or
from
not,
like Mario 64 as well, even goes as far back as
they had
that,
like
which
Zelda 64, but like they're like, oh, we
mhm.
have like the original demo that they showed, for the like Zelda 64, and they're like, here's the demo. We finally cracked it open. We got the leak now, boys. And they're like ROMs of that were like seeping out and onto the internet as well and stuff. Like, uh,
Yeah. Nintendo is very protective of their IPs. They are the one studio that is still going out and taking down ROM sites. They yet they don't promote their past really. They have the virtual channel. They have like Nintendo Online, Super
they had
Nintendo
like that
Online.
arcade thing. We're talking about like the last Nintendo Direct, where they're like, we're gonna have an arcade place where you can like play all these old games that we had out
Yep.
on the arcade stuff, and it's like that's cool. And they're like, and you have to buy them each individually, and it's
Yeah.
gonna be great. And everyone's like,
Yeah.
come on,
It
Nintendo.
comes across as
Oh man, I forgot what we
like
were
money
talking
grubbing.
about. The recording got fucked up. Can we do something like that? And then we'll just keep going and we'll edit it in.
Yeah. That works. That works.
I don't know. We
Uh,
talked about Splatoon. We talked about Breath of the Wild, Nintendo
oh, the emulation stuff. Yeah.
emulation. Yeah, that's where we're at.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Oh shit.
The arcade exploitive practices by Nintendo. It feels money grubbing. They're just kind of out of touch. Yeah, that was kind of like the general gist of
Shouldn't feel.
us dunking on Nintendo.
Yeah. So you're right. So Nintendo did, and sorry everybody, we had some video issues.
Technical issues.
So we are back. So yeah, Nintendo is very protective of their properties, but don't they don't give you what you actually want. Like they have such no one has a better back catalog than Nintendo.
Yeah,
Yet they every generation you are rebuying the same thing or buying a service to have the privilege of playing these games that you played
yeah.
20 years
Like
ago.
like one of the big like announcements from their Nintendo Direct was like Skyward Sword's coming. They're like the guy, the director of like Breath of the Wild comes out. He's like, "Yeah, I have no news on Breath of the Wild. Sorry about that, but here's Skyward Sword. You can buy it again." And he's like,
Yeah.
"We're announcing like a new controller that has like a sword and a shield on the controller. Uh, and you can buy it all right now, full price, all over again." And I'm like, "Damn it!" like,
Exactly.
uh,
I think the big thing is that the a lot of the remasters they're doing though, especially the Wii era, since everything had waggle controls, they are all like the big thing is you can play with the controller now without motion controls.
yeah.
That's a big
Like this
thing.
is all we ever wanted from the jump. Nintendo
Yeah,
was just the option.
yeah,
Uh,
yeah. So I think that some
People in
things are
America
good.
are really out of shape.
It's like,
We all played Wii on Thanksgiving, and that was it. Like, and then we're like, all right, if we could just have a controller. Um, one cool ass game that came out that I was looking forward to the most was Mario Golf.
oh yeah.
Mario, whatever. Like it was like 50 words after Mario Golf, but it was like now you can have like Super Golf where you like all playing in real time and it's like a race to the hole.
Yep.
Uh,
I'm hyped for that too. I'm super
that
pumped.
looked great.
I love the Mario sports games. Mario Tennis being my favorite. I think the best one was on the GameCube, Mario Power Tennis. It was had the most balance and the most like ingenuity for the powers. Mario Tennis Aces on the Switch. It's very fun. I feel that the new powers just kind of dumb it down a little bit, so it's not as good, but it has online. So I'm like at that weird impasse where I'm like, I'd rather play the GameCube one, but this one has online. So yeah,
Yeah.
but I hope that golf the online mode is fun. I hope it's stable. I really like Mario Golf as well, so I'm hyped, dude. I am. It comes out in June,
Yeah.
I believe. So
It's whenever they're like all the dates and stuff are kind of up for grabs with everything that's going on.
true,
So
true. Yeah,
who
yeah. So
knows, man? If they can't even get like Nintendo Online to work properly. I don't know if they're like online telecommuting. Japan's on point either, dude. Like,
True. What's interesting is I think that the Switch Online will be getting better, but you're right. The when I was streaming Mario 3D World, one of our buddies or two of our buddies were on Wi-Fi, and myself and Sir Trike were on the Ethernet adapter.
yeah,
And the Wi-Fi buddies were having some latency issues, things like that, because Nintendo cheaped out on the Wi-Fi hardware, so it doesn't
yeah,
it you can only set like the MTU setting for, and for those of you listening who don't know what that is, it's maximum transmission units. It's how big of a chunk of data that gets sent and received by your device.
chunk.
You can it caps out at 1500. It defaults at 1400, and 1400 is what internet was back in 99 to 2000, where like first run DSL was out, first run cable was out, when 3 megs down was,
It's
good
massive.
internet, when
Yeah,
1 meg down was good
3
internet.
kilobits.
Yeah,
Like,
so you could
my day.
tell you could tell how backwards Nintendo is on that and how behind the times. So the fact that we're getting better online through Nintendo kind of shows you,
My day, you had to dial up on your Famicom to download the Dragon Warriors.
yeah, it shows you that that I think that they realize that they are far behind here, and that's the one like big negative that I think is keeping some of these games from blossoming into a bigger online scene outside of Nintendo's practices themselves. But really, what competitive online things start from is the community. Smash obviously has that community. If they had a better online play, better net play, uh, you don't need Nintendo to sponsor official tournaments. You'd have the Smash guys doing official tournaments
Well,
online
like you saw that, like
with
when
better
the
online.
Splatoon, I think it was Splatoon, where they had like the solidarity moment where they're like, "Oh, if you're not helping out Melee, we're gonna host our own thing."
Yep.
And like the official like tournament was like $200, like prize pool. But
Yeah.
then they're like, it was like all the Splatoon Big Five, all named like their uh organizations after like Melee, different stuff in Melee to like pay homage to like the Smash community. But like they're like, oh, we're just canceling the online part of our tournament. We're not going to show like the last part of the tournament. Fuck you guys.
Yep.
Nintendo did, and so they're like, oh, we're just going to host our own thing. And then they're like, we're just going to raise money from the community. Then and we'll host it on Twitch or whatever. And they raised like, so Nintendo's official prize was like $200, and like they had a thing on Twitch and it was like 25 G's that they like all split amongst like the top things, and then they raised like another. They cut it off at 25 grand, and then they're like, anything else we're putting to charity, and they raised like another 3 grand for charity, dude. So it's
Wow.
like, yeah, if you give like the community like the tools, like I don't think Nintendo understands like just how big like the community for like competitive play is, and especially like we touched on this I think like back when we were talking about like Cliff Blazinski or whatever, where it's like uh, Cliff had like such radical ideas where he wanted like the uh, really high level play.
Yeah.
But like I said that at that point, I was like, where the real money is like the middle of the road. Get rid of all the rough edges, and like you see that with like Smash Bros and like Splatoon, where they're trying to get rid of like high level play. They want it to be really accessible for like everybody, but like it doesn't make fun to watch. Like you end up with like the situation with like the Bayonetta, where it's like both of the all the top 7 players are all playing like a Bayonetta or whatever. Like uh, it, there's like a clear like this is the best optimum strategy, and where everybody's just going to play that. Uh, yeah, man.
True. True. I
Not since Leroy.
love the callback to the FGC episode. uh, so yeah, Nintendo just needs. I think they're trying. I think
Yeah,
that their overall business practices. I'm at a
it's a
loss
massive
because
organization.
yeah, it is, and I get protecting your IP, you know, just rigorously because no one has Nintendo's IP, IPs and IP clout. As a fan, it's disheartening because I'm all for the emulation scene. I believe game preservation is important. I think that the fact that we have fans compiling all of these games and and now we're at the point where we're 20, 30 years from a lot of these super big releases that are staples of our industry, you know.
I think they always called it, like, for Apple, the walled garden. So
Yeah.
it's like if they wanna have, like, their walled garden to, like, protect this I don't know, like, I played did you play, any of the Pokemon Switch games?
No, not the Switch games.
I played
uh
the Pokemon Let's Go Eevee,
yeah.
and that was great. I was having, like, a pretty good time. Like, it's basically a remake of, like, Red and Blue, Pokemon,
Sure.
like, the very first. So it's like, "Oh, shit, let's get in it." I remember like, it hit me in the nostalgia and the feels, and I played it, but, like, they got rid of, like, the combat and the grind part, and they made it like the Pokemon Go capture controls.
Sure. Yeah.
And then, like so I do, like, a little bit more research, and I find out it's to, like, sell, like, this fucking, like, Bluetooth Pokeball that you can
Yep.
use with the Pokemon Go game, and then you can take your Pokemon Go, uh, characters from your phone and port them over to the Switch to play on there, and I'm like, "I don't want the like, who is this for?" Like, you get the old man like me who's like, "Oh, this is great. It reminds me of, like, my old Pokemon days 30 years ago."
Yeah,
Like,
that was like
uh
a stopgap though, because the real Pokemon game came out right after that. So there's
yeah.
a so but I get it. Did you like the differences in Let's Go Eevee, and would you like that incorporated into the main series, or was it too predatory with its you
Well,
gotta
like,
play Go?
it seems like, kinda we touched on this, but it's like the Ubisoft situation, like, the big Pokemon Direct was like Pokemon Legends Acarus, Ass Master or whatever, you know what I'm saying? Like the bird. Like, like the new Pokemons, I don't much care for. But it looked like it was like a Breath of the Wild style, like open field, like
Yeah,
it's the Pokemon game you always imagined in your head when you're playing like the top down one where it's like, oh, you're running around and like you're capturing them in their environments. It's like what everyone I think wanted what was the one where you take pictures, Pokemon
Pokemon
Capture?
Snap.
Yeah. That's what that was also announced to them doing a new one of those. But I think
Yes,
when Pokemon Snap for like the Nintendo 64 came out, I think everyone thought the exact same thing of like, how come they can't just do a real Pokemon game like this? And instead of taking pictures, I'm catching Pokemons and we're battling them. Because it felt like they had like all the weird different parts where they put out Pokemon Stadium and then they put out Pokemon Snap, and it's like, can't you just smash those together so it's like the like
the
the Game
game.
Boy game? Yeah, like
True.
it doesn't. You have the
It,
systems, but you're not integrating them. Like, and then I think it was like limitations of the hardware of the time as well. Where it's like we can give you a taste of what these could possibly be someday in the future,
but
and that future
RPG,
is now.
but RPGs have existed since since then.
Yeah.
It's incredible that it's taken near 30 years for Nintendo to make a true console Pokemon RPG. Right?
We
It's
don't even know if it will be that though, because like even like the Pokeballs have like belt buckles and stuff. They're like, oh, this is ancient times. We don't know what's going on in this Pokemon world. Anything could happen. Uh, so like I think again we're doing a lot of projecting and like I don't know maybe like dial back our expectations a little bit like because like Pokemon Go Eevee was like nothing how I was expecting. Like the battle system was completely gone. So I didn't. I saw like 2 seconds of a battle in like that direct where I was like, okay, this kind of looks like the old throwback, but like they have those battles too in Pokemon Go Eevee where it was like you have those old school battles, but it's only when you come against the gym leader. So
okay.
it might be something like that where it's like in the wild, like you just and like for better or worse, like I think a lot of people were like, I like that system. I hated battling every 3 seconds. I don't want to be in a meat grinder, like figuring out like leveling up my Pokemon. Like that was the most boring part of the game for me. And for me, I was like, I liked it. I enjoyed it. Like so it's not to everybody's taste. And I think like modern sensibilities would lean away from like hardcore grindy, like boring games and they want to be able to just port over like their Pokemon Go creatures and like let rock and roll from there. And that's
Hmm.
okay. That's okay. I'm just a relic from a different time, a
Yeah,
different
yeah.
Pokemon time.
I think
Uh,
that the Pokemon series as a whole has been in good hands for a while. The big gripe with the most recent release is the graphics. Game Freak really just kind of dropped the ball on quality there. They're just like, meh, 6
Yeah.
pixels, that's enough. 6
I've heard a
polygons,
lot
we're
of people
good.
saying like this seems fan made, but like I
Yeah.
don't know, bro. I don't think they see what like the fans have been doing. Because I've seen some fan made stuff that like blows everything that they're doing out of the water.
It's weird. So we don't have the uh, viewership that warrants this, but it like pains me to think if some Nintendo rep sees this. It's for what I'm about to mention that they shut it down. But there's a fan made Pokemon Online where it's a MMO. You're
Yeah,
just walking around and you can battle others and things like that. That is what Nintendo should have done, like
I mean
already.
they still could. Yeah,
They still
yeah.
can, but
Uh,
they like it should have already happened. The world, the story, the gameplay style really lends itself to something like that, and it's just weird that Nintendo doesn't capitalize on this. Like, look at Elder Scrolls. That I felt that already lent itself to just MMO style. Like it just works, and Elder Scrolls Online has its problems, but I think that someone higher up had the same thought as I did. Like, damn, this could really work as an online RPG. Let's do it.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and but then you have Fallout where they just drop the ball and and just
Yeah,
shit
like
the bed with it.
76.
But
Uh,
yeah,
it seemed like they were experimenting with online with that game, and then they're like, "Ship it! That's a complete product." And they're like, "But we were just seeing if we could even do this." There it was kind of like a feasibility statement, and they're like, "How feasible is this? Like, can we use our old engine with like updated code to like really do something like this?" And then they showed it to the higher ups, and the higher ups were like, "I'm seeing a lot of talk about if it's possible, but we see it is possible. Let's do it as a complete product." And everyone was like, "I guess, like, I don't know, why not?"
yeah.
Because like from what I heard, it was like a small skunks work team that was like it was never meant to be a full product from like the jump. If anything, it was going to be like a nice add-on to like Fallout, like the
Fallout
full
4.
game. Yeah, but instead they're like, we're going to spin this off to its own thing. Uh,
That's yeah,
but
yeah. I think we should do a expose on
I
Bethesda because now they're
don't
owned
know.
by Microsoft, and
Yeah, but at least we see Nintendo willing to experiment a lot more now, more so
yeah,
than they did in the past.
I,
And
I I think they've always been experimental, but you're right. I think it was more with hardware at that point,
yeah,
and they're coming out with games that were safe. But you're right. I think that there's some experimentation going
I mean,
on.
it's like you said, like with the Walled Garden, where they're very protective of their IP. We see them now, like with like Hyrule Warriors: Age of Calamity, where they're
Yeah,
like, take Zelda, like maybe throw it in a Dynasty Warrior engine. Who? Let's see what happens.
yeah,
Uh,
yeah,
and like
yeah.
that game had like a lot of, like problems, like a lot of like scummy, like practices as well, where it's like the pay to win model of like, yeah, there's all these updates and stuff you can get, but like if you want to like really beat the game on your own, you're gonna spend like 300-400 hours to collect everything to do it.
I,
And then there's like a lot of gotchas in it where it's like, oh, if you want to like dress up like your character or the fairy, like however you want, like you have to unlock it.
but
Uh,
it's all I believe all of it. I haven't played the Age of or the Hyrule Warriors series, but I thought it was all optional, right? Like you can beat the
yeah,
game without
yeah,
buying anything.
yeah.
One of the things that Nintendo's did, starting with the Wii U, and the Wii U was definitely a failure, but one thing came out from that era that Nintendo still uses, and that's the amiibos, the little collectibles that you scan on like the gamepad, and you can bring them in game and it unlocks different things. They I think they cost like $10 or something. I've never bought one, so please just don't
Really?
don't take this
What
as
not,
gospel.
man?
I don't care for them. I
You
mean
got
you
like
see
those like
the
shitty Funko Pops, bro. Like nobody like,
fuck. I
oh,
like
bro.
those. I
Those
like
are
those. I just
Funko Pops are disgusting, dude. They're horrible pieces
just
of
shit,
vinyl. Like it's like
just shitting on my collection behind me.
it's like oh, it's a little jelly, dude. Get a real man's miniature like
Think you got the
some Warhammer.
Warhammers behind you?
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah. No, I think I just personally wasn't too interested in them. I'll
an army of
probably,
Warhammer like that back there.
dude. It looks like
David.
it looks like you just pulled off some sod and threw it behind you. I can't even see that.
It's so small.
But you know, I just never was super interested in them. There's a few that I would like the Bayonetta one, but that's super expensive. I don't know if they have a Koopa Troopa, but Koopa Troopa is my favorite like Mario
It
enemy.
seems like
Probably
the
get one of
ones
those.
that become super popular are the ones that are like super overpowered in whatever game it is,
Yeah,
and then like they sell out and you can't find them. They're like, it's a limited run super silver Pikachu that you can only get in like Japan at the Nintendo uh
yeah. They
Pokemon store
they
from
took
Nintendo.
the Pokemon collection and made it in real life. That's what all amiibos
Yeah,
are. It's collecting them all. That's
the
literally what
gotchas.
it is.
Like,
Yeah,
take a spend money, get it.
yeah, yeah. But let's see. What do you think about the Switch's state currently? Do you think that because there's the rumored Switch Pro coming with a bigger
Yeah,
screen, more powerful hardware?
it
Do you?
seems like from what I have seen from the community, like going into the Switch and like really breaking it open, it seems like you can get like a little bit more juice out of like what the Switch is currently capable of. Because there are people who are doing that for like Hyrule Warriors, where they're like, "Oh, let's see if we can get like 3 to 5 more frames." And there's definitely some stuff they can do hardware wise that will uh, fix some of the problems they've had.
Mm,
So a lot of it's like software updating to like the main hardware, but it seemed like the best case scenario you're getting like 5 more frames per second.
mm,
And like a lot of these bigger open world games that they want to like go in that direction of. Like I said, like when I played Mortal Kombat 11 for the Switch, that was the only game on the Switch that crashed for me. If you're speaking of like a walled garden, like
yeah.
so, uh, and it was only after a long period of gameplay where I was like, I played it for like probably 6 or 7 hours, and then like I think the Switch just overheated, literally into the crash, and I was like, well, I better take a break because this thing is as hot as like a piece of coal right now off a grill. Like this is a hot piece of charcoal right here, dude. Like,
Yeah.
uh, and I was like, this thing's gonna start a fire.
It,
Yeah, and that was, like, the only game that crashed on me, so they definitely especially with, like, the new consoles launching, a pro version seems like it's overdue, really, like, a lot of people were speculating about this, like, 2 years ago, but they're like, "Oh, they need it," and then they're like, "Ah, we don't wanna launch a bunch of SKUs of, like, their system or whatever," and
s-
I don't know.
it's
They
they're in a
they
weird
seem to
spot.
abandon the old hardware always, because like, the Wii U, like, that didn't have a very long shelf life. I think they kept it around for, like, what was, like, 3 years, if that?
Sounds right. It sounds right because
Like, 2 or
Nintendo's console release schedule is like it's opposite of the Xbox and PS and
yeah,
or Microsoft and Sony for good reason. The original Wii had a pretty long shelf life. The GameCube had a decent shelf life. I think the Wii U was just a failure, which is why it didn't have a shelf life. But they had the 3DS to fall back on, so that's kind of what was their bread and butter at that point. And the Switch is in a weird spot because they dropped traditional mobile stuff because the Switch is obviously a hybrid. So
yeah, I think everybody wants them to combine, their the Game Boy into the Switch, so it's just one thing now. So
well, they
instead of
already
having
did. I
yeah,
mean, it's already
so
its thing.
but they still make, like, their Game Boy, like, their mobile do they
You might not have heard. Yeah, they stopped production on the 3DS already.
yeah,
It doesn't exist. It's only the Switch now. That's the only game in town.
it's only Switch moving forward.
Yeah, so they have the normal Switch, and then they have the Switch Lite. So the Switch Lite is basically the new Game Boy, and the
Yeah.
Switch it's their console plus that. So I think a hardware upgrade is fine.
How did
My
you feel about the
worry
3DS?
the 3DS was so the DS was one of the best consoles ever. The 3DS was an iteration, and I personally liked the 3D mode. I think that the thing with Nintendo's handhelds is they always have different iterations.
The
So
3D
I'm
mode did, like, nothing for me, like, I didn't feel any of the effects on it.
really
But they
no,
had
it worked great for me.
yeah, but, like, they had the option, you could just shut it off. I was just like, "I don't know, this isn't doing nothing for me."
Yeah,
I
but I
just
mean increased processing power and things like that. Like you had
you literally have to
two
render the
Resident
game
Evil games. Yeah, yeah,
kinda like with the VR space where you have to, like, render for both eyes, so it's, like, 2 miniature screens or whatever, like, uh, that was, like, some of the early prototypes, and then they're just like, "We'll just do 1 big screen,
yeah,
instead." Uh, so yeah, man. Are you saying
yeah.
2 Resident Evil? prototype games that came out?
No. They're full Resident Evil games. Resident Evil Revelations was it went back to Resident Evil's roots, and it's probably one of the best Resident Evil games that Capcom's ever made, and that was originally a 3DS title. So I
Yeah.
think that the DS and the 3DS were great handhelds, and the 3DS had a super long life. Uh, Nintendo's just really they're in their own market. This is why that the new consoles came out. Nintendo doesn't give two shits. It doesn't
Yeah.
matter. They are in their own world, and since right after the GameCube when the Wii came out, they've always been in their own world. Like whatever Microsoft, whatever Sony does, doesn't matter to Nintendo. They have their own rabid fans. Their games are different enough to where you don't really have any overlap. Most people right now, if you're getting a gaming PC, right? Like you get a gaming PC, you skip the Xbox Series X because most of like it's been reported that all of the exclusives are coming to PC. If you want
Uh-huh.
any of the PlayStation exclusives, you grab a PlayStation. But the main thing is you get a Switch, you get a gaming PC, you're good to go. You have enough parity to get all of the console games.
Do you think the same thing will eventually happen to Nintendo though? So they've been like really tight with their walled garden and stuff, but they were doing those experiments with like releasing mobile games. Do you think they'll eventually start porting like some of their old like DS library onto mobile, some of their old Game Boy games? Like, but like at a certain point, do people even need like a Nintendo Switch? Because like cell phones are getting to the point where they're crossing that XY threshold where it's like I can play a bunch of really good games on my phone and like yeah, there's like a lot of games out there with like scummy predatory, microtransactions and like whatever else, like the A/B testing where they like try and get what's most addicting to your personality to get you to like purchase more shit in the game. All that aside, like if Nintendo came out and they're like, hey, we're doing our own thing, you can just buy the full game, and they've done like a couple of those. Uh, at what point do they need to still make a console? Like, when can they just like leverage their library, their massive library of IP?
Forever, they'll always make consoles. I'll tell you why. Um,
Make so much money on them.
they make so much
They're
money on them. They're one of the few publishers slash developers that operate like gaming used to be. They have a hardware division, and that's like the big thing. For Nintendo to stop making hardware, uh, like who like you can't, because otherwise everyone's using the same architecture. You're just using basically PCs. The PS5 and the Xbox Series X are just PCs in a small form factor case. Then
Do you
Nintendo
think
with
that
Integra chips are I feel Nintendo is still doing unique things in the hardware space. People are copying Nintendo. The
yeah,
the dual screen DS, people started copying that. And do you remember like the Korean cell phones that came out with two screens
yeah,
because
like cell
Nintendo
phones,
did it?
yeah,
Yeah, yeah. The other thing too is the actual Switch, the docking to like a Thunderbolt slash USB C port to instantly display things and to undock it. PC technology is copying that. There are Kickstarters right now where you have laptop slash desktop hybrids that are handheld that are
yeah.
just aping the Switch's design. I think that Nintendo's R&D division is second to none, man. They are making things that we could only dream about. I remember as a kid going, "Wouldn't it be great if I could take my Sega with me?" And then Sega released the Sega Nomad, which was your Sega coming with you. Nintendo took that to a whole new
20
level.
double D batteries, dude.
Yeah,
The thing was a
yeah.
brick.
Exactly. But Nintendo is doing that now, man. It's like, hey, I don't want to stop playing the brand new Mario game, and handhelds aren't powerful enough to play the brand new Mario game. So, do you remember, like, with the Game Boy Advance, you'd have the Game Boy Advance version of the game, you'd have the real version, and the GBA game
Yeah.
was gimped as hell. Now you have the actual full game, and Nintendo is making that possible. Microsoft and Sony are going with like cloud gaming, things like that, to go on your cell phone, and that's probably the future. Nintendo's already experimenting with that, with the Switch version of Hitman 3,
I
Control.
feel like I
Um,
brought you around to cloud gaming, bro. Like,
I,
uh,
I
you were in denial, like, towards the beginning of the podcast where you're like, "Oh, it's never gonna happen." Like, I don't want that. This is
I still
bullshit.
I still don't want that, but I do see where the industry's going, and you made good points. But So my thing is I want it. I just want it natively supported on this thing, so I don't have to have an active connection. And even despite being in the U.S., our internet infrastructure is still trash.
Yeah.
So it's just not feasible for probably
like,
15,
like
20
I said,
years.
like my experience with PlayStation Now, I bought it like a year for like a year of subscription to it, sight unseen. I was like, this is the future. This is what I want. Uh, the thing crashes on me all the time. It loses connection, and like I'm on a good like 300 megabit connection. Like it
Yeah,
shouldn't be like whatever. I get like 300 down, like 8 up or whatever. It's not the best up, but whatever.
yeah.
It
Well,
should be
downstream is what matters for.
well, they also, like, kneecap it as well, where they only are doing 720p, so you don't even get, like, 1080, you don't get 4K, like, they only have available, like, 720, so I'm like, I'm already willing to take this lesser version of, like, these things, like, because I just wanna play some RPGs and stuff on here when I have free time, and it's really nice, to have that option, and it still crashes on me, still, like, I've ran into so many bugs where, like, their, like, support is, like, non-existent as well, like, I'm like I'll go to, like, the thing where it's like, "Oh, I'm having connectivity issues," and it's like, "It sounds like a problem. It sounds like a you problem, bro." Like, they're like, customer support's, like, non-existent for, like, PlayStation Now, like, oh, it's ridiculous, and then so I had to, like, go on, like, Reddit, and I'm like, "What can I do to try and fix this?" And there's, like, several, possible solutions, and I went through, like, all of them, and, like, I eventually realized that it was like a firewall issue because of the way it was connecting. So I had to like open up like a port for them.
uh,
Uh, but like
was it the
even after,
leasing timeout issue?
dude, it was. I don't even want to think about it. It was like almost like months ago at this point.
Sure.
Uh, I don't know
But
what They used like their own thing, but like the the dream is alive of like that online streaming. Like pick what games you want, but I don't know if Nintendo wants to go that way. Like you said, they've always been a hardware company. They'll
mhm.
always have a thing, so maybe they'll do it, but for their device, and they'll, like, pull, like, an Apple, like a Steve Jobs, like, we're bringing a touchscreen," and, like, throw touchscreens have been out, like, "We're bringing you a mini disc player," and it's like, mini disc players have always been out, they're gonna be like, "We're bringing you streaming Nintendo right to your Nintendo device," and I don't know, maybe they can do it with, like, just, like, their hardware, and there's something to be said about, like, if you control the device you're streaming to, like, it's easier to control, like, the algorithms that do compression.
Yeah,
So, like, you drove, like, the A/B side of it, of that handshake,
true.
yeah, so they may be able to, like, dunk on everybody if they do it right.
Yeah, I think that Nintendo in the hardware space is the smartest kid in class, and everyone else who are smart look to them and go, "I'm gonna steal that." So
Yeah.
Nintendo will come out with something really cool. Someone will steal the idea and refine it, and and it'll be the norm. Like uh, look at Sony, right? They like with so the Switch and stuff came out with gyroscopic stuff. PS3 came out with like the six axis, which was gyroscopic. They continued it with the PS4. Nintendo, I feel their gyroscope controls are the best in the business right now, and I think Sony is just finally coming to terms with how it should work. Um, Microsoft has been the player that's kind of stuck with traditional schemes. Yes, they had the Connect, which I believe you had right. Um,
Yeah,
I think that the Connect was I think enterprise side, it's great. I don't think it was great for gaming.
I
I
think
think,
we're not ready to have a world where there's always a camera in your living room watching you. Like, I think that just, like, turns, like, a lot of people off, like, for privacy in America, at least, where there's, like we don't want, like, a big ass corporation that always can watch us. But then, like, I don't know, they keep trying, so they bring in like different devices into your house. All these mega corporations, where like, I think Amazon had like their Amazon drone in your house thing that they have now. Like, just
well, it's
weird.
the Alexa too, like the smart speakers, or the virtual assistants, are all in your
Or it's
home,
like a mini
constantly
drone.
listening. Was there? No, no, it's not a drone. Just like
Have you seen?
the little
They have like
speakers.
a mini drone now, like in your house that like will like deploy for you to like do stuff. I don't. look too deep into it. I was like, this
Skynet's
looks like a
real.
yeah.
Everyone get
I
out.
was like, who is getting this? Who is inviting this into your home? Like, but like companies keep trying. So like, I think Connect is a great concept, but I don't think people want that. I don't think people want cameras in their living room always watching them.
I think what
Uh,
Connect did, though, that we'll see the end result in a few years, was their multiple cameras for full body tracking and spatial awareness was super impressive, especially because outside of what the Connect did, I don't see anyone else in that space doing it. So I think what Connect did for that industry, we'll see it in like mixed reality things,
you're seeing it like
someplace.
Apple's doing it. So
Mm-hmm.
uh, I don't know. There's like several like pieces of software that will use like Apple phones exclusively because of the multi-camera. Like they just came out with their new phone that has like lidar on it,
Okay.
which is good for like depth and like finding like sense of field and stuff. So the phone's way too expensive, but I think they implemented it into like their iPad as well. So the new iPad also has it, which is like a little bit more like affordable entry point. But if you're doing kind of like you're saying like R&D or like research for like things where you're trying to have like a depth of field and like tracking of like multiple objects in a room or whatever, like they basically carried the torch for Microsoft now of like that dream, that idea of like a multi-camera sensor that will allow you to like have motion controls or
Yeah.
like so they're doing that, and like I've seen like some pretty cool tech demos that people have made with like different things uh, in that space with like hand tracking and object tracking or like detecting like faces, people, animals, like
Sweet.
uh, yeah. But it's it'll be interesting to see what happens when Nintendo like. I wonder if they're scared of VR as well because of what happened with like the Virtual Boy with Nintendo, like
That's
because like I
fair.
think like a Nintendo VR experience, I feel is like where the ball is going for them because they already have like the picking up docking thing. So it's like, how much more of a step is it to like,
Dock it
yeah,
on your face. Yeah.
yeah, like it seems like the no brainer like next step, but like I don't know if like they're, especially with like you said, like their motion controls are like the best in the industry, and that
Yes.
was like one of their big selling points too when they were talking about like the Skyward Sword that they're bringing back. They're like, oh, we're even better motion controls now, and I'm like, damn it, nobody wants this. But I'm like, but if I had it on my face, maybe I would want this, you
Yeah.
know?
Yep. Yep. Well, and Skyward Sword has control, like regular controls now too. It's like which I think more people were excited about than having to waggle. But you're right. Nintendo. It's weird that they're not in the VR space right now. But I think you're right. So they don't have Gunpei, the guy who like headed up the Virtual Boy development.
What if
He
that's
he died.
The Pro Switch?
The Pro Switch would be VR.
Yeah,
Well, so we're
it's twice as powerful. So now all your old games we can have in VR.
so the Virtual Boy uh, was a heads-up display that was all red for those of you listening and those of you who may have
Right in
not
people's eyes.
have not
Gave
heard.
people killed kid. I heard it killed a kid.
I thought that was just rumor, but so the best the
Sixth
best
grader told me
game for the Virtual
people
Boy,
died.
the best game for the Virtual Boy was Wario,
Yeah,
Wario World. So that was its one killer app. Uh,
a kid told me that if you beat that game, then Wario shows up in your dreams and kills you, and that's how those
I've
eight
heard
kids died.
that too. I've heard that too. There's a lot of weird like urban legends associated with the Virtual Boy, and apparently there's some kid, and I don't know if this was urban legend or what, but he played so much Virtual Boy that in one eye, like his vision, like he closed his eyes and still see Wario because he stared at it so long. I don't know any truth with
I
that, but it's
believe
pretty funny. But yeah, Nintendo started off with the first, consumer level mounted display. I think that you're right. I think that the Virtual Boy really gave Nintendo cold feet on that. The What the
I
Virtual
think
Boy is what the Oculus Quest is right now, a portable virtual solution. Um, with it's. I think that Nintendo, like I said earlier, Nintendo's R&D is second to none, and Nintendo's the smartest kid in the class. Other people are looking at Nintendo and going, "Let's steal that and iterate on it and make it better. So,
I
thank
want
you,
to say that
Nintendo.
like, because they're such an old company, because of their experiences with like Virtual Boy and stuff. I want to say like at a certain like when you get to that big of a level, like all you're doing is fighting off lawsuits. And so I wonder if they just look at VR as just like one big lawsuit that they don't want to deal with. Like you get like the kids who are like running into things, the kids who are breaking stuff, the people who leave it on all the
Mm,
time, the people with like the blurred vision or like, and they're like, oh, this caused like this problem or this caused like this the Nintendo Virtual Boy gave me erectile dysfunction, and now they're dealing with like these lawsuits. Like I don't know if they want to deal with that as like a major corporation where they just kind of look at it and they're like, we can like. I'm sure they just have like a filing cabinet full of like all the lawsuits that happen with the Virtual Boy, and they're just like, why? Why do we want to open ourselves back up for like this type of litigation? Uh,
that's true. That's a great point. I didn't think of that. I don't know what PSVR deals with because they're the only console maker in the game that's doing VR. They're still
yeah,
releasing things, and they have VR exclusive titles. Uh, I I think with most VR, and since I'm an adult, I haven't actually looked at it, but I believe it's recommended that you don't try VR until you're at least 12 years old. I don't know
okay.
if it's a spatial awareness thing, if it's how close the heads-up display
I know
is,
they
if
had
it's
that for like the 3DS as well, where it's like only certain like age. There was like a disclaimer for that. Like they're like, hey, just
yeah,
a heads up. Yeah, eye
yeah,
doctors recommend you're at least 12 or whatever. Like so before
yeah.
you start like jamming electrons into
Just
your
right in
eyes.
front of your retinas. Yeah, yeah. So that might be part of it. I think that if VR gets a little more mainstream, which I think PSVR is great with that. I think the Oculus Quest 2, it right now is the most popular VR headset out there. It's a very attractive price point. The games for it, their first party games and things like that are very very good. Um, and with uh, with what PCVR is doing in the space is incredible. And I think that it's only a matter of time before VR is the norm, and we that is what it is.
I
Um,
think it'll get to like a contact level where it's just like a little contact lens that you jam in there.
that'd be awesome. Uh, I think that Nintendo will be the last one to adopt VR, however,
I think we're
because of
what if
Virtual Boy.
what about the new Nintendo Switch is just like a contact lens?
Well, we'll have to do another episode on that. That's awesome. So let's get some conclusions here. Uh, at
Yeah,
this state in time, do you think that would you purchase a Switch? Because I know you don't own one yourself. Would you
yeah, just
purchase the new
borrow it.
version? Yeah. Or and do you think that it's in a good place uh, to recommend it, or like recommend its games or anything else, or what do you think could be improved?
I mean, I always recommend. I know there's like a shortage on Nintendo Switches here for a while, like just because there's people wanted something like fun and great to like play.
Yeah.
Uh, I think it's I don't like at a certain point, like it kind of got like a weird thing where it's like for kids, but like now a lot of adults are not playing like a lot of these games.
Yeah.
Uh, it's always felt like I don't know, man. Like I don't know if I would get one just because I can borrow my bros at any time.
Yeah.
Like, but there's like one or two games on there where I'm like, damn, I wish I could play this more. But it really, I think like I chose like PlayStation Now because I was like, oh, I could buy like a Switch, I could buy a PlayStation 4. Uh, and
Yeah.
it's weird because like I'm at a point where like I have the disposable income where I could just buy these things and it wouldn't be like uh where I wouldn't be losing any sleep over it at all. But I'm just like I don't need it. Like there's nothing in there that like really pulls me, that beckons me. The one game that was like that was like Breath of the Wild, and I played a lot of that when I borrowed. So much so that I was like, oh yeah, I'm good. Uh, Maybe when that new Pokemon game drops, the Legend of Akurus or whatever,
Yeah.
I might try that.
Breath of the Wild
Uh,
2.
I feel like they never finished one, bro. Like
You know
they're
you've
they
never
promised so
finished
much.
one.
No, I'm saying like they didn't, like Nintendo. They promised so much DLC. They're like, you get the seasonal pass, and then they had like one drop, like for their season pass. of like one content drop, and that was it. And like it felt like most of the dungeons, because I've watched other people like go through like all the dungeons, like the supercut on YouTube. This is what you do when you're an old man. You're like, I played it, and then I was like, now I'll just watch like a supercut of all of it happening really quick, and like I basically experienced the whole game minus like the final boss fight. Um, and I watched that online, and I was like, eh.
please,
I was like,
please,
eh.
someone in the comments correct Chip on his blasphemy. Yeah, so the Pokemon game will pull you in is the main thing.
Possibly. I think it's gonna be more like Pokemon Go though. Like I think what I want is like that open world like battle experience where like I'm sending out Pokemon and they're like AI companions that understand when to fight, things I'd point to. I don't think that's gonna happen. I think it's gonna be like segmented off. You're probably gonna have like your gym battles, and then you're gonna have like the throw Pokeballs at the Pokemon in the wild. Uh, and I don't think anybody really wants that. I mean, I'm sure somebody does. Somebody's like, "Oh, this is great. It looks beautiful," but I don't know. I definitely would recommend a Switch. Like if you're thinking about getting a console, like out of like what's out there to choose from right now, uh, I think I think you'd be the least disappointed with like a Switch. Like if somebody was like came up and like, "Hey, I'm thinking about buying a video game console. Like, what do you think's out there right now that I'd enjoy?" I'm like, "Get a Switch. You'll find there's enough stuff in there that like you'll love something and like you'll treasure
Yeah,
it forever." And I
yeah,
can't say that about like Sony or Microsoft and their options. Where I'm like, "Oh, get this because it has this killer app that you're gonna love and treasure forever, or you'll make great memories doing this." I'm like, maybe if you're like really into shooters, like maybe like I would say like an Xbox over it. Um, and then I don't know, like and
Sony
like just
has
like
like
everything that
the highest rated exclusives last
yeah,
generation. So and
and like
they're
you're like, I was just literally about to say like everything like exclusive for Sony, like if you said it's coming to the PC, then like it's kind of a wash. I feel like most people have a decent computer nowadays. But maybe that's my own biases because I only know people have like really good computers.
yeah,
Uh,
you're discounting the unwashed masses who go to GameStop, buy Game Fuel, and come back with their PS4 and their Call of Duty.
yeah, yeah. And
um,
they're gonna, they're not looking for my recommendation anyway. But if they
true,
were,
true. They're not
I'd
listening
say
to
get
this
a
either.
Nintendo Switch. Yeah, they're
We
sipping
have,
G Fuel, like wondering if they're having a heart attack or a stroke, or if they just have been sitting too long
yeah,
and
yeah,
their legs asleep. They're like, I don't know.
yeah. Nothing wrong with that, Call of Duty players. So
Yeah,
you do you, boys. Uh,
I bought
I
like the Black Ops Legendary Edition because all my buddies were like, "Oh, we're all gonna be playing this all the time," and I was like, "Yeah, let's do it, man." I loved Modern Warfare 3. I think that was the one that popped off the entire Call of Duty franchise. Uh, and we played it for like a weekend, and then we never touched the game again. And I'm like, "You guys said we're gonna play this all the time. I have the legendary Black Ops edition." They're like, "Yeah, whatever." It's like I bought gamer fuel for this, the codes. Yeah, yeah.
uh, oh man. So sorry for that. I
Laughing at my pain.
I am I I think the Switch is a great investment. I
Yeah,
think it's
what would
worth
you
it to buy it.
recommend
I think it's worth it to buy it right now. I would recommend the
if you can find one?
full console dock one over the light. For me, being an adult and being a 6 foot and Chip's taller than I am, but the size of the Switch's controllers cause my hands to cramp after extended periods of play. So I would recommend the
Yeah,
dockable version with a Pro controller, um, just for comfort. But the gaming experiences I've had on the Switch, I'm not getting from Xbox, PS4, or PC. There have been amazing platformers that have come out. Mario Odyssey, like I said, I'm streaming Mario 3D World. The number one kart racer that, yeah, you can play your Team Sonic Racing, you can play your Crash Nitro Kart, but if how good those games are, they don't hold a candle to Mario Kart. Uh, Bayonetta 3 is coming. Metroid Prime 4 is coming. Those are games that I'm very very much looking forward to. That aren't going to be available on other avenues. No More Heroes 3 is coming. the exclusives, if PlayStation won the console war last generation based off of their exclusives, Nintendo, there's no reason why you shouldn't own a Switch. Because if you are a gamer who thrives on playing these exclusive experiences that are, Metacritic darlings, you owe it to yourself to have a Switch, because they're
Well,
all these games are going to be bangers, and there's
it's just
bangers
so
already
many,
out.
yeah, so many different genres and types of games. Like I said, like you'll probably find a game you love and treasure. Like, and I can't say that about like Xbox or PlayStation and just be like, oh yeah, they have so many different things that you can find something that you can only find there, and you're gonna love it and you'll treasure it for like you'll make such good memories for like the rest of your life just from that game. Like, I can't really be like say that for anything else, really that's out there, especially like in the entertainment space. Like, um, yeah, Nintendo's awesome. Like, I don't know,
Yeah,
they definitely make like baffling decisions. They have like bad online and stuff, but like it definitely feels like this go around that they're willing to experiment more, that they've opened up more to indie developers as well, like on their
true.
store front, where like you can get like Celeste or whatever, like there now you can pick up. I think they got Among Us on there, and
Yeah,
I think Fortnite, where they're like, yeah, we're gonna let you guys come over to, and that's good. And like they really opened up the development tools. I think like one of the bigger problems with like the Wii U and stuff was like you had to figure out how to develop. Like the time to pixel was like ridiculous. It was like 3 weeks for a lot of studios or whatever, where they could even figure out how
actually
to
do
use
something.
like that. Yeah, and where it's like, do we want to waste our time in like R&D, or are we just gonna like go forward with this and then like we'll pay another third party to like port it over to like the Wii U at some point.
Yeah,
With the Switch, it seems like they've figured it out, like you said, with like the Tegra chips or whatever. Like they're basically using like tried and true like NVIDIA technology underneath the
yeah.
hood, and like everybody knows how to develop for that. So yeah,
I
man.
will I will say a negative with the Switch and all current consoles, though. Something we didn't touch on that I actually forgot to touch on. Controller drift.
Yeah,
The PS5 right now is in the news for the PS5 just came out, and their controllers are already having major drift issues. Uh, Nintendo, the Switch had drift issues, and I I think that after the class action lawsuit settled and things like that, I think the next iteration of the Switch will have that fixed. Like I said, Nintendo's R&D is second to none, and I believe this is their only console that has ever had drift issues. Like your people are still using their GameCube controllers from launch,
what's
and
causing
they're
all this drift? Is it just like poor quality? It's a
yes, at the
software
end of the
side.
day, at the no, it's definitely hardware side. It's definitely hardware degradation, and I think from Nintendo's point of view, it's from whatever they're using for analog. Like the springs are just wearing out, or
Yeah.
like the little like rubber band
Is it
fasteners are wearing out. But
just to save money, or is it to sell more? Is it like built in obsolescence or
obsolescence, yeah,
obsolescence?
or degradation. The time to degradation
They
is
just wanna sell,
off.
like, more because like, those controllers still run, like, 30-40 dollars for one, like, if you're buying one new.
Yeah,
Like, those
yeah,
even, like, PlayStation or, like, Xbox, like, those controllers are, like, $60, dude, like, it's
yeah.
no joke, like, I bought, like, that PS4 controller, and I was like, "Is there nothing cheaper than, like, 40 bucks?" I was like, "I might as well just get the official one for, like, $10 more," like,
Yeah,
uh,
yeah.
it's
And I think that's just going to be a problem with all the console manufacturers going
yeah, but
forward.
it's like you're already
That
charging so much money for it. They're
mhm.
like, why are you cheaping out? And it's like,
Yeah,
is it just so I break this and I have to buy another one? Like, this is ridiculous, dude.
100%, 100%, and that's what the class action lawsuit against Nintendo is. There's one brewing for PlayStation right now because of
You can
that.
find Sega Genesis controllers in a dumpster bin that'll still work if you plug them in, dude. Like, this is uncalled for, dude. Like, really, like
Yep,
I've seen
yep.
people like restore like Game Boys that they found, underneath a tractor trailer, and like those still have spring action and stuff. They don't even have to replace any of that stuff. They're like, yeah, we're just gonna clean it up. It'll be fine. And
Yeah,
they hit it with like an acid wash, and they're like, yeah, it's good.
yeah. So that's the thing. Hardware was made better back in the day. It just was. It's just the state of things. I don't know if it's production or what. I think
Yeah,
that
it's like more units as well. Like overall, it's like they're
yeah,
shipping literally tens of millions of units instead of like tens of thousands. Like it's harder to keep the quality up when like you scale up to that size.
Yeah, for
And
sure.
like we complain at both ends too, because like we'll be like, how come there's not more PlayStation 5s out right now? And it's like, because it's hard to make. Like it's hard to make a lot of them really fast. It's like what is it, like the 3 points where it's like it can be fast, cheap, or easy?
Oh,
Is that what is it?
yeah, it's like the hooker mentality, right? Fast, cheap,
Yeah.
easy, or quality, quality, moral, and whatever the other thing is. I
So
can't
it's like you
remember.
can have like two of the three, but you
Uh,
can't have all three. Like
yeah, it's the pretty woman variable, right? Like you could have a
yeah.
hooker with a heart of gold, but she's at the end of the day she's still a hooker or something like that. I I don't know, I'm off topic, but
PlayStation 5.
that's the PlayStation 5 with the hooker with the heart of gold.
There's still a hooker.